Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Samasta Jana Kalyani Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Satgurum Brahma Vidvaram Satgurum Brahma Vidvaram. Om Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavatam Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Gratitam Purana Muninam Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitam Ritavarshinim Bhagavatim Ashtadashadhyayanim Amba Tvamanusandadhami Bhagavad Gite Bhavadveshini Yam Brahma Varunendra Rudra Marutaha Stunvanti Divyaistavai Vedai Sangha Padakramopanishadaihi Gayantiyam Samagaha Dhyanavasthita Tadgatena Manasa Pashyantiyam Yoginaha Yasyantam na vidutsura suraganaha Devaya tasmai namaha Devaya tasmai namaha. Om Shri Ganeshaya namaha. Om Shri Saraswatyai namaha. Om Shri Gurubhyo namaha. So we always wonder which form of God we should worship, or some people do. A lot of people have already a family deity or somebody they have been worshiping. But there's always a dispute as to which form I should worship or which form is superior. But in Hinduism, we see the one God everywhere. That's why different people will worship Lord Shiva, Lord Krishna, Vishnu Bhagwan, Ramchandra Ji, Mother Durga. We even worship Tulsi, the plant, or the Himalayas, the mountain, Mother Ganga, or a shivling, a stone. The idea is that God is in all forms, everywhere one can. You can pick anything, and if you worship it with devotion, you reach that highest goal. And that is what Arjuna's question was, that there are people who worship you, Lord, with form and see God in that one particular form. But then Arjuna has seen the cosmic, the total form, where the entire universe is in Bhagwan's form, the Vishwarupa. And he says, is that the ultimate? Is that better? Or he had growing up and also in his young age listened to Upanishads from some of the gurus who had come through, teachers, and he said, they say the God is formless, all-pervading. And those who worship you as the formless, are they superior, or those who worship you as form? Raman Maharishi Ji in his text gives us different levels of sadhana, where he says, he was talking about japa or chanting, which is in the 10th chapter. Bhagavan says, Yajna nam japa yajñosmi. I am the japa yajna among all the yajna. So chanting the name of the Lord is superior or is very high. And Raman Maharishi Ji in his book, he says that you start out by singing bhajans, singing the glories of God, and you think there is a separation. God is somebody high up and I am worshiping him, and that is good. There's nothing wrong with that. Then from that, where you are singing a different songs and different names, 1,000 names, like Vishnu Sahasranam, and then you come to one name and you chant that. And you chant it loudly, because the mind is very quickly moves from here to there. So you chant it loudly. If you can stay alone in a room and you can chant. But as we progress on the spiritual path, they say chanting should become soft, where I don't need to chant loudly. Even soft chanting, Om Namah Shivaya, softly chanting can also take my mind there. And then ultimately, Raman Maharishi says, chanting in the mind. Mental chanting is equal to meditation, where you can chant in the mind and the mind cannot wander and stay on that one name of the Lord or one form. It is equal to being in meditation. And then Raman Maharishi also says chanting can be with bheda or abheda. Sabheda, abheda. Abheda, sabheda means that there is a difference. God is somebody separate. Even though it is with form, you think of God as somebody being separate, whether it's Sri Krishna, Sri Ram, whoever the form of Lord is. And abheda means that God and I are one, where we develop a relationship of love. And it is still with form, but it is superior, because then you see that God and I are one. There is no separation. And from worshiping the form, how do you go to the formless? How do you go to the next step, where God is everything? Then God does not get limited in one particular form. Yes, that particular form is my Ishta Devta. I love Sri Krishna or Sri Ram or Mother Durga or Jesus, whoever I connect with, but God is everything, everywhere. So, and is formless. So it is a stepwise progression. And they say for that, you need to listen to a guru, Shravana, and then contemplate upon that and ultimately make that part of your daily life, where God and I are constantly together, and I am nothing but that divinity. But why does Bhagavan mention all these different forms? Because in the 5th chapter, Arjuna asks that you said in one place, karma yoga is better, other place, karma sannyasa is better. The karma yoga is doing karmas, and karma sannyasa is withdrawing from karmas and remaining established in the self. Bhagavan Sri Krishna says it depends. For you, Arjuna, at this moment, karma yoga is better, because you are on a mission to accomplish a certain job. For you, it's not good to just take off and put on orange clothes, go to the Himalayas to meditate, because at this moment you are required to. So depending on your situation, at one stage, if I'm not able to meditate on that formless, then you start out with form, and then ultimately from one form, as we said, you go to all forms, and then ultimately everything is that. When everything becomes that, then such an individual becomes one with the formless. So last week we had talked about form, Maya Veshya Manoye Mam Nitya Yukta Upasate Shraddhaya Parayo Petaha Teme Yukta Tamamataha. Bhagavan Sri Krishna says, one who can put his mind totally in me and always is connected with me. And at the same time, he lives a life of control, connected to me. Upasate, he or she worships me. Shraddhaya, with supreme Shraddha, supreme faith. Then, in my opinion, that is the highest. But Bhagavan has still not talked about formless, what we call as Aksharam, Avyaktam, or Nideshyam. So these are the qualities about the formless. So last week we talked about Bhagavan with form. Today we'll talk about Bhagavan as formless, without any particular form or all forms. So chapter 12, verse number 3. Ye tvaksharama nirdeshyam.
Ye tvaksharama nirdeshyam.
Avyaktam paryupasate.
Avyaktam paryupasate.
Sarvatra gamachintyancha.
Sarvatra gamachintyam cha.
Kutasthamachalam dhruvam.
Kutastam achalam dhruvam.
Okay, you can mute. We'll all chant together. Ye tvaksharama nirdeshyam. Avyaktam paryupasate. Sarvatra gamachintyancha. Kutasthamachalam dhruvam. So here Bhagavan is giving us the qualities, even though the formless has no qualities, but these are indicators, which if you meditate in the direction pointed out by these qualities, by these attributes of the formless, you can reach that formless. So these two shlokas, third and fourth, will talk about the chapter. The shloka 3 talks about the qualities or the description or the indicators of formless, and fourth talks about how this person should live in the world who is worshipping the formless, and then what is the benefit of that, what is the falashruti. So ye tu, so ye means these people, but the tu means but. So I have already talked about the form, but now I will talk about the formless. And what is that indicator? Aksharam. Aksharam means imperishable, never perishes, never gets destroyed. Shara means destruction. Anirdeshyam. Nirdesha means to point out, to indicate. So this form, this formless Bhagavan cannot be even indicated, cannot even point out. Avyaktam. Avyaktam means unmanifest. Unmanifest is in Sanskrit ashabdam, asparsham, arupam, tatha rasam, nitya gandham. So he says it cannot be heard, cannot be seen, cannot be smelled, cannot be tasted, cannot be touched. All that, then how are we to know it? Paryupasate. Upasate means to worship. But here, pari upasate means by meditating, by contemplating upon these words that have appeared in the Upanishads. Also in the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, the Bhagavan Sri Krishna had talked these words, Kutastham, Achalam, Dhruvam, and Aksharam, and all those in the 8th chapter and 2nd chapter. So he says these that we have indicated in the Upanishads, you have to worship upon, worship or meditate upon it. And it is sarvatragam, it is all pervading. Achintyam, cannot be thought of. He says you cannot think about it, you cannot talk about it. Then how am I to know it? So we'll talk about that. And one more quality Bhagavan gives, 3 more. Kutastham. Kutas means, Kuta is the anvil, and in the we'll talk about anvil, what that means. Kutastham, achalam, unmoving, and dhruvam. Dhruvam means eternal. So these are the indicators that describe this formless. So one is aksharam. Akshara means cannot be destroyed. Something that has qualities or forms can be destructible, can change. Like if something is hot, it will become cold. If something is cold, you can make it hot. If something is white, you can paint it black. If something is a big piece of stone, you can break it into small pieces, or you can combine small pieces and make a big building. So that which has qualities can be changed or modified. But Bhagwan, this formless, has no qualities. So you cannot change it. You cannot modify it. You cannot destroy it. Akshara means it is always there and always will be there. Then it says it is cannot be defined. Defined. What do you mean by defined? Means you cannot point out that this is the formless and this is not the formless. You by finger, you cannot indicate. You cannot say this is and this is not. You cannot define it. You cannot describe it. You cannot distinguish it from any other, because it is all homogeneous one. Talking about cannot distinguish. So there was this lady who had 8 sons. She was not married. She was single, but she had 8 sons. So her friend came to visit her and says, oh, you have 8 sons. What is their name? First one, his name is Kevin. Second one, Kevin. Third one, Kevin. Fourth one, Kevin. All 8 are named Kevin? She says, yeah, I named all of them 8 Kevin. So she said, that's very confusing. Why do you name them all 8, 7 and all 8 of them Kevin? She said, well, when I want to say dinner is ready, Kevin, come for dinner. They all come. Otherwise, I have to say Tom, Jack, Kevin. It's very easy. I say Kevin, they all come. I say time for bedtime, Kevin, they all go to sleep. Time to wake up, Kevin, they all wake up. It's very easy. Makes my life easy. She says, yeah, but how about if you want to point out a particular Kevin, one particular Kevin? She says, it's very easy. I just use their last name. All 8 had different last name. Then only. So here, Bhagwan cannot be indicated or pointed out as any particular one, because everything is that. So that's why they say it is aksharam anirdeshyam, cannot be pointed out. Avyaktam, unmanifest. As we said, it's not something which can be seen, heard, smelled, tasted, touched. Has no qualities, has no particular way to describe it. So the simple example is the wife sends the husband to the grocery store, right? All of you have sent your husband sometime or the other. And you say, tell him, bring coyote squash. Oh, bichara, poor guy, he doesn't know what coyote squash is. I'm sure most of the husbands here don't know. She says, bring coyotes. I don't know what coyote squash is. Can you describe it? So she says, it is green, it is hard, it is like a pear, it is oval shaped. I can't understand, I don't. She says, okay, when you go to the grocery store, find a guru and ask him which is coyote squash, the one who works in the produce. Find a guru and he will tell you. So what they are saying is that when something is hard, even though the teacher describes it, then you have to act, even though you have read about it in the scriptures, somebody has told you, but you need a guru who can take you to that particular. So same way, this formless is very difficult to understand for us people like you and me. That's why we need a guru, or that's why we need Bhagwan Shri Krishna, who himself points it out. He says, if it is unmanifest, if it cannot be indicated, if it cannot be pointed out, if it cannot be described, then maybe it doesn't exist, right? Something that is unmanifest, I don't see it, it doesn't exist. So Bhagavan says, no. It is sarvatragam, it is everywhere. In fact, everything is that. He says, you say it is everywhere, it is everything, and still I don't see it. Yes, that is the thing. It is unmanifest. And we'll talk about that. Why is it like that? Because our attention is on the name and form. We do not pay attention to the essence. Like when we are watching a movie, our attention is on the movie. We do not pay attention to the screen. Without screen, the movie would not be projected, but our attention is only on the movie. Only when the movie ends, then we see the white screen. So similarly, this world is described as a movie, as a natak. And when our attention is shifts from the natak to the director, who wrote the play, who directs the play. So shift, but we are so caught in this drama of this world. Same thing Pranadji says, you came here to see the world and enjoy it, and then you got lost in it and you forgot what is my purpose. So you and I came to this world to experience and enjoy, but we started thinking this world is real and we forgot our true home, where we came from. So that is what Bhagavan is indicating to us, that what is your true home, what is where you have come from, what they call as Paramdham, and that is where you have to go. And it's again not a place somewhere else. Everything is me, everything is that, all pervading, everything is that. It's not that Paramdham is in some other place. Everything is in that Bhagavan Shri Krishna. But then they say it is achintyam, cannot be thought of, cannot be thought of. Again, we say, if I cannot think about it, then why are we sitting and discussing it? Why are we even reading the Bhagavad Gita? Because anything I think of, the intellect can only think of divisions, right? This is mine and this is yours. This is me, this is you, this is good, this is bad, this is black, this is white, this is my state, your state, my food, your food. So intellect can only think in duality. Intellect cannot think in unity. And that's what Bhagavan is telling us, that from all this duality come to one, the unity. And that is only can happen when the intellect becomes quiet and looks at its source, that from where is this knowledge coming? How am I able to speak? How am I able to listen? How am I able to smell, taste, touch? All those things, how am I able to do? Because of that presence of the divinity within me. So achintya means cannot be thought of as an object. It is the subject. It is the knower. Who knows my thoughts? God does. Who knows what I'm going to say? Even before I say it, God does. God knows what I'm going to say, what I'm thinking, what I am hearing. So everything is that. So that is called achintyam. Kutastham. Kutastham means kuta in our Upanishads is anvil. Anvil, if nowadays, of course, everything is made in factory. But in the olden days, the ironsmith, the one who used to make iron plates and horseshoes or whatever iron things, they had this anvil, which was very, very hard, and hard metal, which would never break. And on that metal, the ironsmith would hammer and make a plate or a cup or a glass or whatever of steel upon that anvil. But anvil itself never breaks. So when it is says kutastham, means it is that on which the whole world is functioning. On God, all of this is happening. All these changes of that we see, people born, people dying, people, going through old age and modifications, all these vikaras are happening on the substratum of that unchanging consciousness. And that is what we have to contemplate upon. And dhruvam means it is beyond time. Time also appeared in that consciousness. Consciousness was there. There was no time. And when the first thought came, the first then and then alone, time appeared. So time also, it is in that consciousness. Even there was no space, there was no time. Even then, that consciousness was. So what Vidyaranya Swami in his Jivan Mukti Vivek says, that you and I have directly come to Vedanta through the back door. What it means is that directly going to knowledge won't help. You have to, along with that, do upasana, do some prayer, do some worship, develop affection for a form of God. Otherwise, people think, Are bhakti is for ignorant people. I am a jnani, I have a lot of knowledge. I want to only contemplate upon the formless. But they say you need to do both. You need to have a love for a particular form and then meditate upon the formless. And then alone, the total merger will happen. So it is good. And some people, if they have done a lot of upasana on the form, then for them to stay in the formless is easy. But if you're finding it difficult, then maybe go back and pick up a form and develop a tank and then slowly progress. So again, each one is different. It's not that one is superior. That's what Bhagavan is saying. It depends on your state of mind. If you are able to contemplate on formless, that's very good. But if not, even the form, they are both equally good. It depends on your level of progression of the mind. So here he has talked about the qualities of the formless, which has no changes. And now we'll go to the verse number 4 as to how such an individual functions in the world, how such a person functions, and what is the phala shruti, what is the benefit of meditating on God with form or without form. So we'll do verse number 4. Sanniyamyendriya gramam
Samniyamye indriyagramam
sarvatra samabuddhayaha
sarvatra samabuddhayaha
te prapnuvanti mam eva
te prapnuvanti mameva
sarvabhuta hite rataha.
sarvabhuta hite rataha.
Together. Sanniyamyendriya gramam sarvatra samabuddhayaha te prapnuvanti mam eva sarvabhuta hite rataha. So a person who is my devotee, what are the qualities he or she should have? Sanniyamya. Niyamya means having controlled. Some niyamya means having completely controlled. Indriya gramam. Gramam means village. Indriya means senses. So these collection of senses, 5 sense organs, 5 organs of action. Some niyamya having completely controlled all his or her senses. Sarvatra samabuddhaya. Samabuddhaya means equanimous. Samabuddhi means equanimity. Sarvatra, at all times, in all places, to remain equanimous. Mind not disturbed. And what happens to such a person? These people, prapnuvanti mam eva. Me alone, they prapnuvanti. They attain, they reach me alone. They prapnuvanti mam eva. Another reading of it is te eva mam prapnuvanti. They alone can reach me who have their senses under control. Sarvatra samabuddhaya, they remain equanimous in all situations. And sarva bhuta hite rataha. Bhagavan in every chapter again and again mentions these. Rataha, they are always involved in what? Sarva bhuta hita. Sarva means all, bhuta means beings, hita means the welfare. So we always have to be involved at all times in the welfare of all beings. And that is very, very important. Bhagavan again and again will mention that you have to serve, you have to help others, you have to try to make this world a better place. Only then you can be called a true devotee of mine. So these Sanniyamya, how to control. So first of all, when he says Paryupasate, as we said, it means to meditate. Meditate. And how? He says Sanniyamya Indriya Gramam. All my senses should be under my control. So there are 5 sense organs: see, hear, smell, taste, touch, and then 5 organs of action: hand, feet, speech, excretion, and genital organs. So what they are saying is control. Don't unnecessarily see things, hear things. Don't waste your time here and there listening to, this gossip or that, violent. And if you have extra time, think about me, listen to my stories, read lives of saints, just chant my name. And at the same time, in your organs, and or not only that, but whatever comes through the ears, through the food, whatever you eat, you see God everywhere. And then restrict your activities, control your activities. Don't just run here and there, do things without reason. Do whatever is necessary to maintain your body and take care of what is essential. But extra time you have, spend on me. Talking too much unnecessarily, of course you need to have friends and but too much time just spent in gossiping, talking. And so control all your senses, not only incoming, but also outgoing. All my organs of action should be controlled. And then also, where does it start? The control starts in the mind. That's why Mana Shashtani Indriyani, Bhagavan says in the 15th chapter that there are 5 sense organs, and the 6th one is the mind, because it is the mind that gets all the information, feeds to the intellect, and then with the intellect's instructions, it gives order to the action. Like if I see some dangerous, person coming, the instruction will go, okay, this person is carrying a gun. So either you close your door, or you move away from that, or you escape, or you find some dangerous. So just giving examples. So the mind is the one, and the intellect, which are also part of this assembly of Indriya Gramam, because they control the senses. So all should be controlled. And why do they run out? Because of my vasanas, because of my selfish tendencies. So the control has to start at the vasana level, and then mind and intellect, and then ultimately at the body level. Now, sarvatra sama buddhaya, that is very difficult. How can I be the same, in all situations? Sometimes it is hot, so hot. Sometimes it is cold, I'm freezing. Sometimes I'm healthy, sometimes unhealthy. Sometimes I'm happy, sometimes unhappy. Sometimes I get good news, sometimes bad news, sometimes praise me, somebody criticize me. How can I be equanimous in all situations at all times? So they say develop an internal shield. I think a couple of weeks ago, I talked about the inner immunity. So I heard a very beautiful example that he says that if you're walking, now the world is full of rocks, stones, needles, sharp things, and you're walking, your feet will get poked, right? So can you cover the whole world with a carpet? The whole world should have a carpet. So when I walk, my feet shouldn't get hurt. You can't. So what do? Put on shoes. Once I have shoes, then my feet are protected. The world is going to have sometimes sharp objects, sometimes soft objects, sometimes dirty, sometimes clean, sometimes rocky, sometimes. So the world will have all these ups and downs, but if I have shoes on, then the world cannot. So this knowledge is like the inner protection. It is like the shoes where my mind remains protected. Why? Because my mind is always in God, always holding on to the Lord's feet. When I work in the world, then if something good happens, oh God, thank you. If something bad happens, that is also, I'm thankful for that. That is your prasad. So taking all good and bad situations as God's prasad, as his grace, his blessings. And even in the difficulties, there is some kuch acha chupa hua. There is something hidden in it, which at this moment I am not able to see. So the ability to see all things as God and God itself, then he says, then such a person sees never is away from God, never away from God, because everything is in God. And there's a beautiful story. I think I have a little time, so I'll talk about Naradji. One time asked Bhagwan, Vishnu Bhagwan, who is your greatest devotee? So he thought Bhagwan will say, Naradji, you are. But Vishnu Bhagwan doesn't answer straight. He says, I have taken birth as Krishna in Gokul. So he's there in Mathura now. Why don't you go ask him? It's me alone who is there. So Naradji, of course, could fly through space to different worlds. So he reaches Mathura, and Bhagwan Sri Krishna is sitting there, very disturbed. He's holding his head and So he said, what happened? He forgot to ask who is your greatest devotee. He said, I have a terrible headache. I have a terrible headache, Krishna says. So he says, well, what can I do? Should I go call the Vaidya, the doctor? No. Medicine, I've already tried. So what can I do? He says, I want the dust of my devotee and put it on my head. So can you give me some of the dust from your feet, from the feet? He says, dust from my feet on Bhagwan's? No, I can't do that. That is, how can I do that? You know what? I'll go ask your wives. Bhagwan, they are in the next room. I'll go ask Rukmini and Satyabhama. They will give the dust of their feet to help their husband. So he goes there to them and he says, your husband, Bhagwan Krishna Ji has a terrible headache and he wants the dust from your feet. Can you give me some of? Oh, no, we can't do that because that is pap. If you put your feet on somebody's head and the dirt from my feet on Krishna's, no, pap lagega. I'm not going to do it. So Naradji said, and Bhagwan is in terrible headache. I have to go quickly and find some devotee. So he immediately flies to Vrindavan and gopis are there and it's the evening and they have been working all day, walking barefoot. And he says, gopis, I need your help. So he says, why? What do you need? He says, Krishna is in Mathura and his head is aching and he wants the dust of a devotee's feet. And they had been walking and their feet were full of dust. They walk barefoot. So they had to pick up all the dust, put it in a joli. All the gopis get and make a big pile. And they said, take it. He says, you are giving the dust of your feet to put on Bhagwan's head. Don't you think, pap lagega, don't you think you will get? So we don't care. Our Krishna is hurting. And if this dirt helps, take it all. So then he understands that who is a true devotee is the one who constantly does not think about himself or herself. God alone is number one. So the ability to see God in all situations at all times, Bhagwan says, such a person who is seeing the welfare of all, seeing me in everything, able to serve everybody as serving God. He doesn't say, I only want to serve people of my community or my state or my church or my family. No, whoever comes in front of me has been sent by God for me to serve. And so if that person has come asking for help, it is my duty to help. Sarva Bhuta Hite Rataha at all times remains equanimous and is serving. So service is the number one. That's why the Bhagavad Gita starts with Karma Yoga, which is the path of service. And so they prapnu vanti mameva, they alone reach me. And again, prapnu, reach me does not mean God is somewhere else in some future time or in some future place or in some future lifetime or some future birth. God is with me at all times. All I have to do is turn my attention inward and see God's presence constantly with me at all times. So that is what Bhagwan says, that when he says they reach me or they attain me, they know that I am their self. I am your inner life, the inner essence within you, that and that alone I am. And so just realizing that God is with me at all time. That is called Tattvam Asi. You are that. What it means is your essential nature is that. That is who you really are. This mind, body, intellect that I have thought myself to be me as Anil or Kusum or Sharad or Shrikant, these name and form that I have given myself is illusory. The essence is one. And that is the message of this particular shloka. See me as everything, everywhere. So third and fourth shlokas talk about the one unchanging reality. But we say, Bhagwan, it is very difficult. बहुत मुश्किल है. Why? How can I think of you at all times and then, you are formless, you are all pervading? It is very, very difficult. Can you give me some easy, and why is it so difficult? So today Bhagwan will tell us why it is difficult, and then next time we will see how to think about that one formless. So today he's saying it is difficult. Why is it difficult? So today he is giving the disease, and next time he will give the treatment, the diagnosis. So he says, why is it difficult? So we'll see in verse number 5. Kleshodhikatarastesham
क्लेशोऽधिकतरस्तेषाम्
avyaktasaktachetasam
अव्यक्तास्तक्तचेतसाम्
avyaktahi gatir dukkham
अव्यक्ता हि गतिर्दुःखम्
dehavadbhiravapyate.
देहावद्भिरवाप्यते.
Together. Kleshodhikatarastesham avyaktasaktachetasam avyaktahi gatir dukkham dehavadbhiravapyate. So Bhagavan says, Klesha. Klesha means it is difficult. I understand. Adhiktara. Adhiktara means more difficult. See, there are three in Sanskrit. There is three. Adhik, Adhiktara, Adhiktama. Adhik means more. Adhiktara means more than that. And Adhiktama means the most. So this says this is more difficult. Klesha, Adhiktara. For who? Tesham. For these people. This Tesham is the sixth case. For those people, of those people. Avyakta, asakta, chetasam. So chetasam means whose mind is avyakta, asakta. For people who are trying to pursue the formless, avyakta, asakta, who are attached to the formless, why is it more difficult for certain people? Avyakta, he. Indeed, gati. Gati means the goal for avyakta is dukkham. Dukkham here does not mean sorrow. It means it's more difficult. It is painful. It is difficult for who? Deha vadbhi avapyate. Deha vadbhi means those who are endowed with the body, who have the body. For them, gati avapyate. It is difficult, this goal of formless. So you say, what do you mean? If we have a body, we cannot reach formless? Then it will only happen after death. Then how come Shankaracharya ji could meditate on formless? Gurudev, they say they were all these enlightened masters, Raman Maharishi, all of these Upanishadic sages, Ved Vyas and Vasishtha ji and all of those, Valmiki and all. How could they meditate on formless? So we'll talk about that. What does he mean by Deha Vadbhi? Those who are endowed with the body. So difficult, actually both are difficult. To sit and think about God's form, even that is difficult. You think for a while, and Gurudev always say, you say Ram, 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 Ram. And then you say Ramchandran, he owed me $50. He borrowed it last week and he hasn't yet paid it back. So from Ram, now you have gone to $50. So even form is difficult, but formless is even more difficult. So what is Bhagavan saying, that you cannot meditate on formless at all until you drop your body? No, that's not what Bhagavan Sri Krishna is saying. Is what he's saying is that those who are identified with the body, that I am this body, that is all my purpose in life is, I am this body and I came here, khao piyo maja karo. I came here to enjoy life, eat, drink, and be merry. Enjoy life, live life of sensuality. I don't, who God will see later on. Here, I mean, enjoy life. Why are you here? Eat as much as you want, drink, party, idhar jao, udhar jao. So those who live a life of sensuality, for them it is very difficult when they think that the purpose of this life is to take care of this body and do whatever it needs. If your body gets sick, take medicine, then again go out and enjoy. Who don't have time for God. So if that is your goal in life, that is what called as charvaka in our scripture. Charvaka means those who are here just for enjoyment. And as we had talked about, majority, 99% of the world is engaged in that, earning money and enjoying life. There are very few who think that my goal of life is moksha. We talked about in the Thursday class also. So it says depends on your point of view. If your point of view is body, then you'll just take care of the body. It's like, in this country, we are used to thinking in miles, 10 miles, 20 miles. When you go to India or to Europe, they say kilometers. So you start thinking, how many is 16 kilometers? Then you have to calculate 10 miles. Or in India, they have liters and rupees. And they say, how much is cost of gas in US? So you say, there it is gallons and dollars. Here it is rupees and liters. Forget it. Don't ask me such questions. Why? Because we are used to thinking in one way, gallons and dollars. Rupees and liters mein jayenge, to we'll get. So that's what they're saying. What you have been thinking about, where you are all the time focused. If your focus is on body, then that's all you will do. If your focus is on mind, I want to listen to good music and I want to meet people who like me and, who are, then your attention is all the time on that. Or I am a Republican, I only hang out, meet with Republicans, I am a Democrat. So if that is your purpose in life, then that is how you are going to live. So they say, as long as you think you are the body, you cannot meditate on formless. To think I am this body, then you are limiting yourself to this body. But if you think I am the consciousness occupying this body, I am that supreme because everything is that. Bhagavan said, I am all pervading. Everything is me. If everything is me, how can I be far from God? I am one with God at all times, whether you admit it or not, whether you believe it or not, or whether you say it or not, God and I are always one. You cannot ever escape because God is everywhere. That's why one of the names is Achalam. Achalam means God cannot move. Why God cannot move? Because God is everywhere at all times. It is everywhere. So there is no place where God is not. So no place where he cannot move. Somebody asked Raman Maharishi, God is form or formless? So Raman Maharishi asked him back a question. He says, are you form or formless? He says, I am form. I am this body. I am male. I am Indian. Then God is also form. What do you mean? So he answers very beautifully in Saddarshanam. He says, Sarupa Buddhir Jagadishwarecha Sarupa Dhir Atmani Yavadasti Arupa Atma Yadi Kaf Prapashyet. So he says, if you think you have a form, then God has a form and the world also has a form. If I think I am this limited being, then you worship God in form and you see the world as form. But if you think I am formless and I am occupying this body, what do you mean by formless? Formless means there is no restriction. The moment you put a restriction, it becomes form. Earth also has a form. It is how many, 14,000 miles or something in diameter. Space also has a form. But that which is even beyond space, that which has no restriction, that is me. So I am that consciousness. That is called Tattvamasi. But at this moment, I am occupying this body and I take care of this body and I do whatever is required. But it requires a lot of vairagya, lot of detachment, because we are so attached to this body, taking care of this body, taking care of me and mine. At the most, we extend to our family. Okay, I take care of me, myself, and my family. But beyond that, we don't think. So it says that you have to detach from I, me, and mine, and you and yours to the totality, to the unity, that there is only one. One God is there in all forms, in all beings, at all times, at all places. That's why in Vivek Chudamani it is said, what is Brahma? Sarvatra, Sarvagata, Sarva, Sarvada, at all times, in all places, in all locations, in waking, dream, and deep sleep, youth, old age, Sarva, everything is Brahma Matram Eva. That's what in Vivek Chudamani it says very beautifully. Brahman alone is there. So see God everywhere, but see that all the names and forms are manifestation upon that. So from the name and form, go to the substratum. What is it that is supporting everything? So just as in a play, you see the play, or in a movie, you see the play, but we don't see who is the one. So same way in this world, there is some, whatever is happening, watch it, enjoy it, participate in it, but never forget that it is God because of whom this whole world is created. So constantly pay attention to that. And what you will see that in these Shad Vikaras, in these 6 modifications, that one alone is. What are the 6 modifications? In Sanskrit, they say, Asti Jayate, Vardate, Viparinamyate, Apakshiyate, Vinashyati. So something is unmanifest, becomes manifest, grows, modifies, decays, and perishes. Like you and I, we were first unmanifest, then we manifested in our mother's womb, then we appeared on this earth, that is birth, then we grow, and then we change. Thin becomes fat, hair changes color, body becomes, goes through changes, then slowly decays. Slowly I get older, and then my joints become weaker, and then I cannot work, and ultimately perish. So these 6 changes occur in everything, whether it's in a human or even in a building, which is unmanifest, it's created, then it is modified, and ultimately when building becomes old, it is destroyed. We see in Las Vegas, all these huge casinos, how they are, old casinos are destroyed and new ones are made. So that is the changes happening, but there is one changeless reality. And so this particular 2 shlokas or 3 shlokas today are to shift our attention from the changing to the changeless, from the form to the formless. So that alone is appearing in all forms. So remembering that, then what happens is we develop unity, that there is only one, and that alone is appearing as all. So the unity can only be seen in diversity when you pay it. And the saints could do that. The Mahatmas could do it. For you and me, it is difficult because we are still very much identified with the body. So from the body, shift to who is illumining this body, who is giving life to me. So that is the essence of these verses. 3 very beautiful verses which take us from form to formless. So next time when we meet, Bhagavan will give us the steps how to reach me. The stepwise progression will be given. So we have a few minutes. If anybody would like to add anything, any comments?
Hari Om Anilji.
Anji.
And we have talked about Upasana today.
Yes.
And Upasana is meditation, or could you give me more light on it?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, Upasana again depends on the context. When you are meditating on form, then it is Upasana, sit near. Upa means near, asana means to sit. But here, when Bhagavan is talking about meditating on the formless, which is everywhere, then we are all the time close to that. So in meditation, what we do is shift our attention from the objects to the thought, and from the thought to who is the knower of the thought. So here Upasana in this context means to meditate. So when we meditate, what we do is we pay attention first to the body, you relax the body, then you observe your breath. And then when the thoughts arise and they go into the world, my children, my family, my this, my things, slowly pay attention to who knows the thoughts. So that is meditation. So here Upasana is used in the context of meditation. So the same word in Sanskrit based upon the context can have different meaning. So here what it means is to pay attention to the enlivening principle within me. And that is what we do when you close your eyes and then you observe your breath and then you watch your thoughts. You are slowly shifting from the thoughts to the knower of the thought. So here Upasana is used in that context. So yes, the same word can be used in different ways depending on the context.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, for meditation, if you go to firstpower.info, if you just go on your phone, we have talks on meditation. If you would, anybody who would like to learn meditation, we do have talks on it. The website is called firstpower.info. If you want to write down firstpower.info, and there are talks on meditation and also talks on all 18 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita. All 18 chapters are there. So in the summer, we won't have classes. So what I would request everybody is every day, at least maybe spend 1 hour or half an hour listening to talks. You can start from chapter 1. And if you spend an hour every day listening to one talk, in less than a year, you will have listened to all 18 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita. So start from chapter 1 and every day listen for half an hour or 1 hour. And in about a year, you can listen to all the 18 chapters. All Tony, who logs in, he has recorded these and put them on firstpower.info. And every day, if you listen to Bhagavad Gita, all the 18 chapters are there. And this is the second time we are doing it. So all the chapters are there. So that's how within a year, you can listen to Bhagavad Gita, the same kind of talk we have done, audio with the chanting and then the shlokas. So that is, so I would recommend, especially in the summer, we will be closed for part of the month. So you can listen to Bhagavad Gita on your own. So firstpower.info. Yes. Any other questions, comments? Kusum, anything you would like to add?
Not really, you did good. But only one thing is that in Saguna Upasana, you need a lot of faith and love for God. Whilst in Nirguna, you need discrimination and viveka. So those are the different. And Sagun is like you're dependent on God. God said, come to me and I will lift you. But in the Nirguna, we have to lift ourselves to ourselves. So I think it's a little difference. But otherwise, either of them is just fine. It just culminates into Nirguna eventually anyway.
Right. Thank you. Very good. Anji, Gita ji bol. Yes.
Namaskar, Bhai Sahab. It's just a little like what is happening in our extended families in India because of the COVID. We are losing family members. Some are gone, some are, in hospitals, and we being far away, are not able to do much except to, as I have learned, like just pray for them. But, now what is happening, like the extent it is happening, it is shaking, at least I know for me, my faith and my, feelings regarding all this, what we are learning. Like, where is God? Why this is happening so brutally and it is taking so long? People are not getting aid, like help, and it's just happening too much. How to help myself at the same time? How to bring my mind together and stay what I'm learning in Gita right now? Like, I don't know if I put the question right or not.
Right. No, it's a good question. We always wonder, if there is God, why is there suffering?
Yeah.
See, that is the number one question. The thing is, if you truly have faith in God, that there is a God who has created the universe, right? Everything has been created by God. Now, whatever is created has to perish, right? Whoever is taken birth will one day perish. Some people die in a plane crash. Some people die from old age. Some people die from cancer. Some people die from from stroke, where they are bedridden. Some people die from infection. Some people die from car accident. So death is the ultimate result of whatever is created, whatever is born. It so happens, unfortunately, that at this moment, there is this illness where large numbers of people are dying. But as you said, what I can do, first of all, I can pray to God that may everything be okay for my family. That's number one. Number two, if I can help in some way, if I can help financially, if I can call people, if I can maybe arrange for, some people are arranging for respirators, oxygen concentrators. So find organizations that are doing good work. So in what way can I help? But the fact is that, like, there are 200 people die in a plane crash. Now you say, why did God cause the plane to crash? That was what was destined for them. So understanding that that nobody lives forever. Nobody lives forever. And I'm not saying that one should not be sad when death happens. 3 or 4 people very close to me also have passed away. My cousin, my buaji's son, who was around my age. But the time for death we don't know how long. There are some children who die at age of 6 months. Now you say, why does that happen? So each individual has taken birth and to live only for a certain amount of time. Like, there's one family I know, the whole family got sick. Only the mother passed away. Her husband, her parents, her children, her grandchildren, everybody in the whole house got sick. Only the mother passed away. Now her time had come. Even her parents survived, who were living in the same house, also got COVID. The whole family got sick. And her son actually had got COVID twice. This was the second time he got a different variant. So we don't know. So what we should do is pray and never lose faith in God, and understand that this world is constantly changing. If I let my mind get disturbed, then that's what I said, you can always not, sometimes there will be thorns, sometimes there will be rocks. But if I have shoes, and what is shoe? Faith in Bhagwan, that whatever is happening, God, I don't know, my thinking is limited. I pray for those who are suffering. If I can help in any way, I can't go there and work. Obviously, in the olden days, you could do that, but I can help financially, or if nothing else, I can just go to the temple and pray. And that may the people who have gone, may their soul rest in peace, and may their family members get strength. We always say, may her soul rest in peace. and may the family members get strength, the surviving. So just pray and help whatever way you can. If nothing else, pray itself. Prayers are very powerful. Just keep on praying, and sarve bhavantu sukhina, sarve santu niramaya. We always say that, may everybody be happy, may everybody. So all I can do is pray that may this COVID epidemic go away, but the one whose time has come, nothing can stop. One whose time has come.
Even the prayer we karte hain, when I sit in prayer, which I do almost all day, kind of, walking, sitting, doing anything, my mind doesn't get focused there. I just keep वो scenery पुरानी वो आती रहती है कि बच्चे क्या करेंगे उनके, क्योंकि young people are dying now. Not only older, but younger. Here and there, we used to hear like a plane crash or this one. But now it's almost every day, every other day, news is coming. Either we know them directly or we have acquaintances just happening. And my own mind is not getting focused anywhere. I just feel that I'm getting sick. I just don't know. I just thought of asking you, what can I do for myself as well, for others too?
I think just pray more. The more your mind gets disturbed, just sit in front of God and just keep praying and just keep chanting. Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama. Just keep on chanting God's name and just stay and think of these joys and sorrows as, that's why he says, Sarvatra Sama Buddhaya. They always are equanimous. So try to find that inner equanimity. Only it can happen when you connect to God within. When you think of God as somebody outside who is creating problems, then it will get disturbed. But if you see God within me, and God is everywhere, and connect with that God, then your mind will get peace. So just, I know it's difficult for everybody, for all of us, but it's a combination of also wrong choices. Like we are told, you have to wear a mask, you have to take all the precautions. So it's a combination of all those factors, wrong choices. And there is this pandemic. All we can do is take a precaution for ourselves, and then whatever happens, happens.
Thank you.
But don't ever lose faith in him. Never ever lose faith in God, because that is the only Sahara, that is the only support we have, is his name. So just keep doing that. And ultimately you have to get peace within. Whatever has happened, I cannot change what has happened to my relatives or my cousins or my extended family. All I can do is find peace within, and that can only happen when you connect with God. And whatever has happened, we can't change it. You can't go there and help them. So just stay here and pray, and whatever way you can help.
I just feel like, as a parent, when our kids do something wrong, we just forgive them. And God is our parent. He's Parampita Paramatma, hum uske bacche. And why, if we all as a universe, if we jivas have done something wrong, why can't he forgive us? No, this thing is going on for very long. It should be over.
See, first of all, if people don't die, then there is not going to be space for future generations. Suppose my grandfather, great-grandfather, great-great-great-grandfather had never died. The earth would be overcrowded. That's number one. So whoever is born has to perish. You will say, why does a 6-month-old child die?
Yes.
Every jiva is born with a particular lifespan. We have to understand that. And that when the time comes, some people just step off the curb, they trip and fall their head and they die. And the other people go through a plane crash and they survive. So jiska time aaya, who has to go will go. So he has made the law of karma. And also there is this, that everything in this world is temporary. That we have to understand, that nothing in this world is permanent except God. If you think that I should live forever, it's not going to happen. Do you think you can live forever?
No.
No. So then why do you expect others to live forever? Whenever the time comes, they have in the war in Arjuna, that's what Arjuna was saying, all these young men will perish, thousands of them perished. But Bhagavan says they are already been killed by me. Their time has already come. All you do is be an instrument. Arjuna said, I don't want to fight because I don't want all these people to die. Bhagavan says, whether you fight or not, these people are already finished. That's what Maye Nihatav Purvameva. So that time has come. So just make, that's all you can do. So I think that's what this knowledge will teach us, that there is only one reality. Everything else is temporary. Not that you become cold or uncaring. In fact, you care more because you see oneness, that there is only one God appearing in all of these forms. And because if you think of God as somebody separate, then you will say, oh, why doesn't he forgive? Why doesn't he, but God is not separate from me. God is everywhere. You and I are all that. And whoever is born is bound to perish. Bound to perish. Nobody can escape.
Coronavirus has become a sort of instrument at this time.
Yeah, virus has become an instrument. Now in Palestine, now the Israelis are bombing and so many people are dying and they are shooting rockets. Their planes have become the instrument and rockets, they are killing each other, both the sides. So people in the US, people are shooting everybody with guns. Everybody has gun. Every day you hear of mass shooting where 5, 6, 7 people are killed every day, sometimes 2 or 3 times a day. Guns are becoming the instrument. So then who do you blame? God again for that? No, everything is.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a good question. Thank you for asking.
I just want to say something. You just had a beautiful word for Aksharam, Achintyam. With intellect, we cannot think what's God's plan and what is it. So I think the best thing is just to, have faith and say whatever is happening is because what is Achintyam. We cannot even give any explanations. And as you said, the karma theory is so gahan and so strong that we don't know past, present, or future. But the best thing at this time, like you said, is to pray and pray and pray and help as much as we can or do service or whatever. I think it's been mind-boggling for all of us, but I think we have to have faith and say there has to be something that's happening good for it, though it doesn't look like that. Gurudev always said there is always a good reason in anything happening in the world, good or bad, but we would not see it at this time.
Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha, Sarve Santu Niramayaha, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschid Dukha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Thank you very much.